I began thinking about them sharks swimming round us, and maybe that sea monster eyeing us as clouds completely swallowed the moon and the dark heavens melted into the black ocean. Fierce waves blew our little raft about the water. My fear of the elements was interrupted by that voice. "Wake up, you lazy bones! I got the belt waiting for you!" Boris yelled at me from beyond the living world. I knew he was dead, but he was so mean I thought maybe he'd still be spying on me. Then I thought, no, he's somewhere deep below the sea, or in the belly of that shark. No, indeed. I needn't walk up that dreadful spiralling stairwell in the dark to check if the lighthouse lamp was still burning, or cling to the catwalk rail as the winds blew me about. But maybe his spirit was still tossing round these roaring winds. Susanna clung to me. Her being by my side soothed my fears. Still, I hated this feeling. This thing sailors visiting our island used to call freedom. I ain't never known what they meant till now. And frankly, I'd trade all those lashings from Boris's belt for this feeling of dread. Then I heard my sister whisper, "Maddie, what we gonna do now?" I cried, "Sister, oh, what a mess I got us into." "Somebody will come for us," Susanna comforted me. "But Susanna," I argued, "Boris is the only one who knew we were gone. When they find his boat capsized, they'll think the ocean got us too, just like our pa all those years ago. Even the moon can't see us." Susanna held on to me with her bony arms and tiny palms so fiercely, I didn't know how such a mite of a girl could cling so furiously. "I am happy we're gone. I hope I never see that island again," she declared, for she was crying no more. "Sister, what do we do? We'll starve out here if we don't drown or get eaten first." My fear intensified as I contemplated. Why did I get my dear sister in this mess? What shall I ever do? I begged her pardon. "I'm right sorry I got you in this bind. Maddie, you remember the story Mum used to tell us? Sis, you know I have no recollections about Mum. Well, our Mum used to tell me about this evil bucca spirit who lived out on the seas. He floated in the winds and caused misfortune to sailors by sending fierce gales and colossal waves that sank ships and drowned seamen. Sometimes he swam in the waters, and when careless children swam too deep, he'd yank them under, making them drown. 'Don't you get in the water,' Mum would scold me, 'or he'll pull you down, and no one will ever see you again.' One day, this bucca was floating along the shore and spied a beautiful maiden with long blonde hair collecting seashells. She was a sight to behold. I thought our mother was pretty, but Mum said this lass had something called pure beauty that'd make a young man fall in love instantly. Well, he decided to. Did he drown her? I asked, getting chills supposing he was floating around in the ocean winds, ready to yank us under the sea. "Oh, Maddie, let me finish the story. This spirit was smitten with the beautiful maiden. The problem was she was a mortal creature, flesh and of the living world. But he was a dark spirit from the depths of hell. Every day he watched her, and soon he fell in love with her graceful and tender ways. One day this bucca appeared in front of her on the shore. He declared his undying love for her, but he was terrifying, all covered with black fur, long bat ears, and two demon wings flapping about as he floated above her. When the lass saw him, she dropped the seashells she'd been collecting and ran like the wind down the shore. For the bucca looked like the devil himself. But the bucca could fly, and he snatched the poor lass from the shore just like a seagull catching a fish swimming in the ocean. He flew the terrified maiden up to a lighthouse and imprisoned her high up in a small watchroom. She was locked up there and only had a little window to see out of. The bucca, being a mischievous spirit, forgot all about her as he travelled the seas, looking to harm more sailors and drown more lads and lasses who ventured too deep into the waters. The maiden looked out this window, hoping someone would come. She asked herself what she could do and spied a boat floating out on the ocean waves. She had an idea and let her long blonde hair, which she never cut, even when she was a tiny lass, out the window. Why'd she do that? I asked. Well, Matty, her golden locks were dozens of feet long. A prince sailed up to the island and saw her locks hanging out from high above. He thought it was a long rope made from yellow flax. Curious about why such a long rope was hanging out of the lighthouse tower, he grabbed those long blonde fibres and commenced climbing up the lighthouse wall, pulling on her hair like a rope. When he got to the top, he climbed into a room saw the beautiful maiden, and, like the bucca, he was smitten. But he was royal-looking, and the yellow-haired lass looked him over and decided he was quite acceptable indeed. She told her story about the evil fiend who had locked her all alone. The prince smashed the door down with his sword and sailed away with her to his kingdom, far away from the shore and the evil bucca. "Why are you telling me that story, sister?" "I don't know, but I figure Mum told me that story, 'cause she knew she wouldn't always be round. I used to think Mum was telling me to never cut my hair, so I always cried when Boris took out the knife and chopped it off. But now I think the story wasn't about my hair at all, but about waiting through the hard times. The way I see it, Maddie, that maiden didn't just sit idle in that tower. She could have waited forever, but she did exactly what she could. She let her hair out. What more could have she done? Well, she waited. Sometimes, Maddie, all you can do is wait. You built this raft. Now all we can do is wait. Don't worry, Maddie. God will send someone to help us." "Well, sister," I began, "I know a tale or two myself. Once there is a place all green. Green forever. Not a green ocean, but green fields. Even the sky is green. And a wolf. He's a mean wolf, and mad too. 'Cause these 3 disobedient little pigs won't do their duties keeping the lighthouse lit. He chased the pigs till they hide in the lighthouse and locked the door. But this lighthouse is not white like ours, but it be made of red brick. Well, the wolf is so mad he up and climbs their lighthouse. But here in the Greenlands, they place the fire at the bottom of the lighthouse. And when he got up to the top, the wolf falls down the stairwell into the fire, and he burns himself to death." Susanna declared, "Oh my, that poor wolf. Just like Boris meeting an awful end." "Well, I feel sorry for that wolf too," I argued. "But that wolf had it coming, just like Boris." Susanna laughed and then reprimanded herself. "Brother, we should not be happy about the misfortunes that befall others. I kept thinking how joyful I was that the ugly Boris was gone forever. But where was he? Surely in hell I delighted thinking about the devil sticking him with a hot poker and laughing. Now you know how those kids feel when you punish them with the belt. Yet I loved my sister's pure heart. And then the waves continued rocking our boat, and my eyes grew heavy, and I thought about heaven, supposing when I wake I should be there, and pretty angels would take me to the moon, and my sister would be there before me with my mum. Slowly, the pains in my stomach and the fears knocking about my head all faded, and I woke hours later with my sister exclaiming, "Seagulls! Seagulls!" The sky above me was orange. A few morning stars were still out, and yes, seagulls were flapping high above. And I said, "Sister, what you going on about seagulls?" "Well, seagulls mean land," she informed. "We're heading to land." Well, I knew my sister's brighter than me, but it did not do anything for my hunger. I sat up and saw the shore in the distance. We waited for hours as we drifted, not seeming to make much progress. Our paddles must have fallen into the sea. We just kept waiting, hoping the ocean would show us mercy. Susanna interrupted my anxious silence. "What do you suppose the folks on that shore are like? Do you reckon they'll help us?" I noticed we were drifting sideways but not getting closer to the shore. Although it was a rather cool spring day, the sun was bearing down quite intensely. The shore looked quite different from what I could tell than our island. There were gigantic trees all about stretching up to the sky. Susanna was humming a tune that calmed me for a while. "Sleep, my child, and peace attend thee, all through the night. Guardian angels God will send thee, all through the night. Soft the drowsy hours are creeping, hill and dale in slumber sleeping. I my loving vigil keeping, all through the night." Sister, I always heard you sing that tune. Where'd you learn it? Boris never taught us no songs. Matty, Mum used to sing it to you when you were crying. She used to rock your cradle, and I thought, that baby cries so much, will he ever stop? But look at you now, Matty, how brave you are. Be a good boy, Matty. But sis, I am so hungry. I looked up at the clear blue sky when a gush of wind knocked our boat about until we were surrounded by high rocks jutting out of the ocean. I remembered tales of seamen saying how rocks were worse than sea monsters. Rocks took more lives than sea monsters or pirates ever did. All around us were high cliffs with the ocean behind us, the sky above, and these large golden-brown stones jutting out of the water as the sea crashed about them. Susanna and I clung to each other, and like the woman in the lighthouse with her long hair, we waited for our fate, our tiny raft bobbing up and down as we headed to the shore, and Susanna cried, "Look, Maddie, we're headed to that beach." Soon the rocks were behind us, and our little raft was resting on the gold sands of an inlet with high cliffs surrounding us on 3 sides. We jumped off the raft and ran onto the dry sands. I chased Susanna down the shore as she shouted, "Catch me, you cursed pirates! I'm an evil genie going to turn you all into frogs!" She fell and I came crashing after her. We laughed till we ran out of breath and rested on our backs and stared at the blue sky, feeling the comforting rays of heat embracing our little bodies. I heard the ocean waves gently lapping the shore. "Susanna, why are the waves here so quiet? They ain't knocking about like our island waves." Susanna did not respond. She was in deep sleep, and a smile so gentle covered her face. I had never seen my sister look so peaceful before. I waited for her to wake and shouted, "We need to find food." We had not brought supplies, for I did not think that far ahead. What a silly boy I was. But even so, I didn't think we'd ever get away from that Boris. So sneaky he was, he'd probably still catch us even from beyond his watery grave. On 3 sides around us were high yellow cliffs, a golden shore, and in front of us was a calm ocean inlet with high rocks jutting out of the water. On the cliff to the right, I spotted a castle. "Look, Susanna, a castle!" I exclaimed. Susanna scoffed. "Silly boy, it's just a large manor looking out to sea. But we should see if the people living in that house can help us." The castle, or large manor, or whatever edifice it was, seemed fairly close, but we walked down the shore for over an hour before we found a pathway that led up the cliff where the castle sat in all its majesty. I had never seen a castle before, but I knew exactly what it was, for the seamen had told me about them. Just like they described, the building had large towers resembling lighthouses, and the building was made of grey stones. The whole structure was half the size of our entire island. We headed down a path that led directly to the castle, and on each side of the trail were high cliffs. I recalled the lighthouse winds, and once again feared the winds would cast us far out into the ocean, and so I clung to Susanna's hand. We finally approached the castle. Its front was covered by broken windows, a wide dilapidated porch that stretched across the front of the building, and a large stone door. Susanna climbed on my shoulders and began pounding the door knocker. "Help! We are lost children needing some assistance. Our mum and pa are dead." And I added, "And we're starving to death. Please be so kind and feed us." Susanna swore she heard a rustling sound inside, but I responded, "Susanna, nobody in there. But maybe there is some food. Let's go find a window and crawl in." We walked around the side of the house and found a broken window. Susanna lifted me up and I climbed in. I gave her my hand and helped her up. It was an abandoned dwelling. We were inside a high stone chamber, and cobwebs filled the corners. The only light in the house came from outside the dusty windows. There was a painting of a rather beautiful redhead lass in a royal blue dress standing next to a man, somewhat older, with that rough look the sea gives men, and wearing a captain's uniform. Behind the stern-looking couple were the shore and rough-looking ocean waves. We were desperate for food, so we scouted around the house, entering into a long, narrow dining area with a rotten wooden table nearly as long as the room itself. Susanna screamed when a rat scuttled about. Leading out of the dining room, we saw a long corridor and felt a cold gust of wind blowing out of a hidden cranny. Suddenly, a voice echoed down the long hallway. "Leave. You are trespassing in my domain, and sorrow awaits you if you do not depart at once. You shall never escape if you linger in the presence of my sorrow." My heart pounded when a white apparition appeared, a ghostly woman floating in the air, her face full of rage as she howled, "Leave, leave at once." I darted through the narrow dining room, through the main hall, and up to the window from whence we had entered, but Susanna was not there. From the entrails of the castle I heard my sister's voice. "Help me, brother. She caught me. I can't escape."